Hello and welcome to another edition of The Sit Down on the College Football Mafia Network. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. Tonight we have a special guest going to be popping on, the retired president of Fox Sports, Bob Thompson, friend of the show, somebody I can call a friend myself. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, so I really appreciate him giving some time to us tonight. He goes on abeyance during the season for obvious reasons. We get into other things during the season, so we don't talk a lot of business of college sports, but certainly in the off season, we want to tap into his expertise as we look forward to what's going to be very exciting, contentious, interesting. I don't know what other words we want to use. There's Bob right there. How we doing tonight, Bob?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Good. It's just me tonight.
Just you?
Me, myself, and I guess you could say that. That's fine.
Where's your friends?
I don't know. They got better things to do, probably. Happy New Year, first of all.
Same to you. It's been a while.
It has been a minute. I was just telling everybody, we kind of go on this relaxing time during the season. We do some cheering for some football teams. Don't talk so much about the college of sports. The business of college football. But now we're in the off season, and that's where your expertise really comes in. What did you think? Let's just jump right into this without getting any crazy or anything. By the way, I want to introduce him again. This is Bob Thompson, retired president of Fox Sports, the guy who was the brainchild of the Big Ten Network. Somebody's, in certain circles is a pretty big wig, and we appreciate him spending some time with me tonight. So, Bob, what'd you think about this season? The first year, this 12-team playoff. How do you think it all came together?
I thought it worked out pretty well. First of all, thanks for having me, Bomber.
I
got a little bit of a cold, so bear with me here.
Oh, that's fine.
I thought the new conference alignments created a certain level of interest with above and beyond what we would normally see because of some of the new matchups.
Right.
I think, and that was shown. I think the regular season ratings held up pretty well. And in some cases did, much, much better. It was great seeing some of the new matchups, that you would, Texas, Alabama, things like that.
Right.
Oregon, Ohio State, at least the first game.
Yeah, that second game was a boat race, wasn't it?
Yeah, the second one wasn't good for us Duck fans, but
yeah. Yeah, I forgot you're a Duck. That's right. I should have sent you a condolence. I apologize.
That's all right. I've learned to get rolled over by Ohio State over the years.
I totally get it.
So, I thought it was on the field, everything was great. There's still a lot of noise in the background with NIL and, various conference realignments.
Right.
In the Pac-12 Mountain West lawsuits, the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, that kind of stuff is still kind of going around. But it was kind of nice that we were able to talk about the games.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff in the background, the noise, whatever you want to call it, kind of went away for a while. But now the season's over and the noise the volume always gets turned up because that's what people like to talk about. And really, we got 3 football games left, and I don't count the Pro Bowl or whatever they call that now. So you've got 2 more NFL and the Super Bowl, and then we're done. And then it's the long cold winter till we return in late August.
Yeah, and you know what? And I've got a list of all the stuff I wanted to just sort of run from top to bottom, all the issues that college sports have right now. But let's talk about the good parts of it. 12-team playoff, a lot more teams involved. 2 teams that wouldn't have made the 4-team playoff the year before actually were in the final. And I think from that standpoint, you get a lot more different fan bases involved. Overall, I think the interest was higher. However, and I'm going to show you this, and I don't know if this was probably not a shock to you. I was surprised by this number of this game, only at 22 million. Going into it, I had anticipated about 30 was in my head.
Right.
2 blue bloods, 2 programs that have national followings. But, I mean, the airing on the day that Trump was inaugurated, you had all the news noise from the pro football playoffs. I mean, do you think it was just a bad scheduling date, or what? How do you account for the lower viewer count?
Well, a couple of things. I think the season running late had some effect.
Okay.
Usually, I think last year we finished up January 9th.
Okay.
So you got in there before the divisionals with
Right.
I believe, with the NFL. So you had a little bit of fatigue, I think, after 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday, the inauguration Monday, and then the game Monday night. So I think that was part of it. I think, the other thing that's, we're starting to see some actual ratings declines, and I think that has to do with, the bundles still falling. It's,
Right.
down to, I think, about 68 million homes if you count the the YouTube TVs and Hulu Plus Live TVs and Fugos of the world. It's about 68.5 million. The high was back in, around 2012, 13, something like that. I mean, you think back to, I think it was 2006 when the USC Texas game, which was, I believe, the highest rated game. That was a BCS game, but the highest rated
Right.
champ game at 35 million. So
Yeah,
we're
that
down.
was the number I read today, was
Yeah,
35.
and that was on Fox. So it was broadcast nationwide on and over the air. So you get a little bump from that. But I think even the highest BCS game was 2015, which was Oregon Ohio State, one of the first CFP games.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've even come down, pretty significantly from that. And a 12% decline from last year is, it's something they need to take a look at. And I think they are. I think, going forward, not next year, but I believe after that, the game will be simulcast on ABC.
I was going to ask you about ABC. Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that I was a little surprised they didn't do it this year or next year, but it could have been some contractual reason that we're not privy to. But my understanding is that going forward after next season, I believe it's after next year's, once the new contract starts, that it will be on ABC as well. I think to keep in mind, though, the NFL was down as well this week, and
Right.
the big game, the Ravens Bills Sunday night, was down in 12%, exactly the same as the NFL. So I think that that's something that needs to be in an eye, be kept on. One of the tough things about the CFP is, with all the games airing primarily on ESPN, certainly after the couple of TNT games, which were sacrificial lambs because they were thrown up against the 2 NFL games.
Right.
And I'll get to that here in a minute, the scheduling. I think that, let's see, what was I going to say? Yeah, I can't remember now. The TNT games were I think
The first round games you're talking about.
Yeah, the first round games.
Yeah.
It's all only on ESPN. So the only one doing promoting is ESPN. I mean, if you watch the NFL games this week, it was this week and last week, constant cross promoting. Tonight on, the guys on CBS are saying tonight on ESPN, or tonight on Fox, or tomorrow on NBC, and back and forth. And you just didn't get any of that. And that's very valuable to people. I mean, people need to be reminded of this stuff, especially on a day like a Monday when they sat around watching the inauguration, or that whole thing, and that did some pretty decent numbers. It was also on about 25 different networks, so it's going to do it. And there could have been some fatigue, no doubt. I think the fact that most people are usually used to college football being done before January 20th.
Right.
Is something they need to take into consideration. And that goes into kind of what I think one of the things you probably want to talk about is, what do we think the committee might be looking at?
That was my next question. Yeah. Okay. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, I think that I'm not sure a whole lot changes for next year. I think they'll probably look at the seeding for next year. And probably, I would expect, go to a route that a lot of people, myself included, put forth, which was auto bids for the conferences, the 4 and the P4 plus at 1G5, but their seeds fall where they may. You're not guaranteed a top 4 slot. And it was, kind of shown how poor that worked out when, 2 of the 4 probably wouldn't have been in, definitely wouldn't have been in, but wouldn't have had a bye, right?
Right.
And that probably would have set up a situation where Oregon doesn't play Ohio State in the quarters.
That's right.
So interestingly enough, I think that Oregon Ohio State was one of the highest rated games of the playoffs.
It was.
Yeah, and so that's not surprising, but you want that to happen in the semifinals. You don't want that to happen in the quarterfinals. And so I think they've got to take a look at that. I think going forward, as far as, are you going to expand beyond
right,
12?
you go to 14 or 16.
14, you go to 16. Is there no buys?
Right.
You just play a straight NFL type model with, only the division top teams get, the top 2 get buys. So that's all up for play, but you also have to remember that if there's any changes for next year, it requires 100% agreement of the 11 conferences that make up the FCS.
Just for this year, though, to make a change for the fall, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay.
And then next year, though, and so are you going to get 11 guys to agree, or guys and ladies to agree?
Yeah.
Big question. And then going forward, the things change a little bit with the beginning of the new television agreement with ESPN. And besides it being simulcast on ABC, we don't know to what extent, but the word is that the SEC and the Big Ten will have significantly more say in how things work.
Right.
And that is still kind of to be determined. I think even the SEC and the Big Ten don't know how they want it to work. And in fact, there's talk of another one of their joint meetings being scheduled, because I'm sure they're probably trying to get their ducks in a row so that they're able to present to the group at some point, the group being the other 11 or the other 9, I guess, FCS sub conferences,
right,
what they're thinking about going forward. So that's going to be, interesting to see. And then you start talking about, do we go to a week 0 start? Well, what happens to champ games? What do you do with Army, Navy? All those type of things. Is there a way to, condense everything or squeeze everything that so you don't have to run up against the NFL divisionals?
Right. I would call that the NFL crush at the end of the season.
Yeah.
The calendar sort of mushes together, doesn't it?
It really does. It really compresses, and the NFL is going to play whenever the NFL wants to play. And, they still have to deal with the, that the first round where they stepped on, they kind of kicked sand in the NFL's face, and the NFL said, okay, we're the gorilla and we're going to walk wherever we want. And not only are we going to put games up against you, instead of them being on the NFL network, we're going to put them on Fox and CBS, I think it was. And they're going to be good games. They're going to, it's not Jacksonville. This is going to be a good game. And so, unfortunately TNT was the receiver of that back slap or face slap, because they had those games, and the ratings on those games, showed the fact that the ESPN or that the CFP is going to get stomped by the NFL. And so you'd be better off working with them. And the NFL offered it. The NFL suggested they do 2 Friday, 2 Saturday, and everything would have been fine.
Really?
Everybody.
I didn't hear that story. Yeah. Okay.
And it was, and then the NFL said, no, we're going to do 1-3. And, Friday night's not a great hut level, not a lot of people watching TV on Friday nights. And so there was, stuff that could have been done to avoid the conflict. And I think they really need to think about that going forward if they want this thing to be as big as it can be. And you're going to, look at if the NFL goes to 18 weeks, which is very possible in the near future, you're going to have to figure out a way to work with each other so that you're not stomping on each other and cannibalizing each other's viewers, because it will happen in this, and it's shown so far that the CFP is going to lose, and you need head-to-head battles with the NFL. If they're fine with that, that's fine, but they're going to have to understand that at some point there's going to be ramifications in terms of the TV dollars, because that's, they're paid based on viewership, and if they continue to erode the viewership by scheduling up against the NFL, it's going to come back to haunt them. And you got to remember, I mean, ABC, ESPN, the Disney folks, and are in the NFL business as well, so they don't do the scheduling, but they certainly have some input. And the last thing they're going to want to do is tick off the folks in Park Avenue in New York, being the NFL.
So I think February 19th is that date you talked about, where the Big Ten and the SEC are supposed to be meeting again, to do
Right.
a little, I don't know what you want to call it, a correlation meeting of some sort to get on the same page.
We don't call it an alliance.
No, I'm not. Don't say alliance.
You don't like that one. They're just meeting of the minds, trying to figure out, as certainly the two heavyweights, kind of how they see the world going forward, or in other words, what kind of will might we want to impose upon the others.
So and maybe you can or maybe you can't, but can you dispel a rumor at all that that's exactly what they will do? They will go into a room and say, pretty much, we're going to say it's going to be 8 SEC, 8 Big Ten, and screw y'all, we're going home, and you guys go have your own playoff. Is there any chance something like that happens?
Well, I can't dispel that. I would be shocked if that happened, because you don't want to invite the government into your business.
Okay, and that's what I've been thinking.
That would invite the government into your business. And
okay,
a lot of those schools who would be excluded, they all got 2 senators each.
Right.
If you want to see holy hell rain down, take that kind of approach. I don't think you see that. I think you might see things like more guaranteed bids.
Okay.
For beyond just the conference championships, that type of thing. But I don't think anybody at this point, I'm not saying that might not happen down the road, but in this next iteration of the CFP playoffs, I do not see the Big Ten and the SEC doing the kind of the up and out move. We're going to just leave you guys all at the door. I don't see that happening at all.
Okay. Because there is obviously a fear from the rest of the world that isn't in those areas. Now, the one counter I've heard to that is 75% of the viewing audience is in the Big Ten and the SEC footprint, and everybody else. You're right. The senator count is all equal. That's the way we are as a government and a nation. But as far as the viewership goes, outside of California, everything's over in the Southeast and the upper Midwest and Northeast. How does the rest of the country compete with that? Or is there nothing they can do at this point? Like, let's talk about the conference I care about, the Big 12. Is there anything that Brett Yormark could do to be proactive to get more involvement for his schools?
Well, I think in the era of NIL, which we're approaching, I mean,
right,
kind of not the era of collectives or whatever, we pay for play, I call it, the era we've been in until going forward. I think it's if you look and see how there's been some turnarounds at certain schools that have the money. I mean, you look at the Indiana's, Illinois, SMU's. I mean, people who plopped some money down and really stuck into it. You can turn a roster pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things that you see in the new era where players are getting paid is they don't so much care about the school. They don't so much care about the coach. They care about how much they're getting paid.
The opportunity. Yeah.
Exactly. And so rather than sit on a bench at some place because of a coach or because of, you think you're actually going to play, they'll go to some place where they're guaranteed they're going to play because they know they're probably coming in as the number one guy. Otherwise, they wouldn't be putting $800,000 in that individual's pocket.
Right.
And so I think what you can see in the new era of kind of a revenue sharing, the $20.5 million era, whatever you want to call it, the house
settlement
solution, combined with the fact that the collectives are still going to be out there, and that will basically be true NIL because the collectives are going to pay people above and beyond that $20.5 million for doing things that actually contain name, image, and likeness. Like being a pitchman for a specific product or a company. So I think with that, it does allow schools, and there's plenty of schools in the Big 12 territory that have significant resources above and beyond just the $20.5 million. And I think so that's certainly an advantage for them, but they've got to figure out how to marshal it. I mean, I think that the line of the year as it relates to paying players came from Coach Saban on an ESPN Game Day, where he said, you can pay all you want, but you still got to pick the right players. And for the schools to be able to turn around and there's certain things now that have leveled the playing field that didn't exist before. So for the conferences that you might say are above and beyond or outside of the Big 12 or Big 10 and the SEC, it's just, out in the immortal words of the late Al Davis, just win, baby. And that cures a lot of things. I mean, it was 2 years ago and TCU was in the finals, right? I mean, they got boat raced, but so they were in the finals, and it shows that that those teams can play at that level. I think that there's other things they're going to have to do. They're going to have to play better non-conference schedules, because you've got to win some of those marquee games. You can't be playing a bunch of directional FCS schools. FCS schools. So it's just they're going to have to make the commitment, and I think that's one of the things that we're going to see here pretty soon is kind of like who's in and who's out.
Yeah,
and how much are they going to spend? I mean, the $20.5 million is it's a lot of money, and so what's the trickle down? Are sports going to be cut? Other sports going to be cut? Our school's going to opt out. I think it's pretty safe to say the P4 guys are all going to be in, but I'm not convinced all the G5 or G6 schools are going to go in at the full level. You've already had, North Dakota State, I saw opted out today. They're out.
Yeah, they said maybe next year.
Right. Yeah, we're going to kind of see how this all goes. And so it's, there's a lot of different ways this can go. And then with that hanging over the whole thing is the fact that, the House settlement has been agreed upon by the plaintiffs and the defendants, and the judge, more or less, as well, has given her blessing. But there's a couple of things that, concern me on the horizon, and that is, there's still issues on the whole transfer portal and all that stuff. What's going to happen there? There's still, the big question of how many sports are we going to continue to be able to subsidize with this when we take this $20.5 billion or $24.5 million.
Billion would be a lot.
Yeah, that would be a lot. And spread that amongst our student athletes. What's going to happen with collective bargaining? That's something that's still hanging out there. That a lot of people say, well, they should be employees, and they should have revenue share and guarantees and kind of, you normally when you see those type of things, it's as a result of a collective bargaining agreement.
Right.
We don't have that right now. And then the last thing, which has always kind of amazed me that it didn't really come up significantly before just recently, is the whole Title IX discussion. And
Yep.
as you know, Title IX basically gives equal weight to women's sports and men's sports across a variety of different qualifying criteria, and how that $20.5 million falls within the House settlement is kind of undecided at this point. There was discussion of it in that lawsuit, and the defendants, the NCAA and the 5 conferences, had a Title IX expert, and that individual's report was excluded by the judge, and so it never came up. And it was basically along the lines of the judge says, well, that's going to have to be dealt with at a different level. And so because it's an existing law, so at some point that's going to end up in the 20.5 million per school is going to get into the Title IX, weeds,
Right.
really into the Title IX weeds, and that's going to have to be resolved. NIL and what I call, the collectives, which are still going to, be out there. I don't think that's so much of an issue for Title IX, because you're paying for a specific athlete's, name, image, and likeness.
And it's a third party, not going through
Exactly. It's not a school. Right. It's not a school type thing. It's a third party. But, everybody's called the NIL, the wild, wild west.
Right.
What are they going to be now? How are they going to be administered? Who's going to be the sheriff over these NIL guys? And, they basically, let's call them what they are. They're big money boosters, and they only have one thing in mind, and that is, how do we buy the best players for our team? And
right.
That's what they're there for. So I understand that, but if the college football world says they're going to monitor that, administer that, and keep it within some set of guardrails, I'm real excited to see how that's going to work out.
Just as we're almost a half hour into this, I appreciate Bob being with me tonight. If you're leaving your comments, we're not going to run those by. Bob will do that after he takes off at the end of his time. His voice is going to give out at some point. So I'll go through your questions, and then we'll do feedback after Bob takes off. But I appreciate everybody leaving comments. Certainly all super chats I will read. But I just got a few more questions for Bob, and I'm going to let him go, and then we'll go on from there. So Bob, you saw my list. I'm going to bring it up again because it's pride of authorship here. I made a list of all the things that me and my team, I have a team that I work with, that we went through and really compiled as many of these as we could, that were leading questions going into this off season, that we thought really a lot of these need to have answers. And you've already hit on, I think, all of them. NIL, revenue sharing, which is the House settlement, transfer portal, the media contracts. We didn't touch on coaches' salaries, but I would assume that would be something that we would get to eventually. The education requirements we've completely forgotten about. And just the fact that that's happened, maybe something will have to be addressed. Roster limits is something. There is an article I wanted to run by you. Where is it at? First of all, they're already laying people off because of revenue sharing. What do you think about the idea of these roster limits with this lawsuit that came out? Basically, players that are getting cut because they've lost their space, because they're at 105 now. What are they? Scholarship players, 105. Everybody else, you're cut to the wind. What do you think about this lawsuit that just popped up yesterday? I found that was really interesting.
Yeah, I haven't totally read the whole thing, but that just shows you recruit people to be on the school, and then you say, okay, you're coming to my school and I'm going to pay you X.
Right.
If you tell them you don't need them anymore, we're bringing somebody else in. Do they go on, unemployment? I mean,
Right.
how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know. They lose
I
their
mean,
scholarships, so now they have to
yeah,
pay for school. I don't know.
yeah. I still don't understand how the whole thing works. I assume these guys getting paid are going to get a W-9 or a 1099 at the end of each year and say, oh yeah,
Yeah,
by the way, you do owe taxes on this. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. I think the whole transfer portal and all that stuff, they've got to put some guardrails on that. I really think a lot of people have come forth with the idea that there should just be one instead of two, and I think that makes sense. But the whole idea of there people not having freedom of movement, that kind of runs counter to all collective bargaining type things, or
right,
your ability to um, be in a right to work state or whatever. No
right.
contractual binds can keep you from going to another job that might be more lucrative. So all that stuff, and there's already one going on, with the guy who went from Wisconsin to
To
Miami. I
Miami.
had a 2-year
Yeah.
deal. He left outside the portal, and he's like, I ain't giving the money back. And
What?
Miami tampered, and that's not good.
Is
That's what they're
tampering
being
even a
accused of.
thing anymore? I mean,
Exactly. And I can tell you one thing, that if Miami had eyes on getting in the Big Ten, that's getting squashed right now.
yeah,
So,
they put out that notice basically saying, Miami, you're screwing up right now.
yeah.
You're pissing off the wrong people, which is interesting because they were last year. We were talking about them high on their list, right?
Right.
A school that could be brought in pretty easy, wasn't tied to any state or any institutional support from the conference. They could have written a check and been gone. And now they pissed off the overlords at this point, which would be the Big Ten. It's
Right.
crazy
One of the
time.
other things I saw on your list is rights deals.
Yes.
Really the only thing going on right now is really the Pac-12's outlook, and I believe the Mountain West is out talking to people as well.
Right. Mountain
Um,
West, I think what theirs expires at the end of this next year,
right.
doesn't it? Right.
Yeah, and Pac-12 is kind of on a year by year type thing. I do know that Dennis Miller, who was the president of the CW, he left at the end of the year, and he was the guy that was really pushing the collegiate aspect. And I worked with him on a couple of deals to get the CW, kind of in the sports world. But I think that the new president and the guy who's kind of overseeing the CW network has the same line of thinking. And they've added NASCAR. It looks like they're losing Live to Fox, but if they can hang on to the ACC, and that deal has a couple years to go before it reverts back to ESPN. So CW is out there. I'm sure that Fox and CBS Sports Network are talking to the Mountain West Conference, but what's what used to be the Mountain West Conference is now mostly the Pac-12 conference. So,
well, yeah,
at least
that's a whole
the stuff that interests Fox and CBS Sports Network.
right.
Pac-12's looking for another member, but my understanding is that the Octagon guys are out pitching it with it could be this, it could be that, it could be all the above. My guess is they probably would like to take another run at
The AAC schools.
UNLV. I think probably.
Oh, UNLV. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe an AAC school. I don't understand Northern Illinois into the Mountain West.
Yeah, that was a bit confusing to
Thought
me as
about
well.
that. I mean, gives you another time zone, I guess, technically. Although they already didn't they add UTEP? I think they added UTEP.
Who?
Mountain West.
For basketball?
No, I thought they added UTEP for everything.
I don't think so.
I could be wrong, but they already had, they're in the central.
They did pick a couple basketball, like they picked up Grand
Yeah.
Canyon and
yeah, they picked up Grand Canyon.
Santa Barbara, right? UC Santa Barbara for basketball.
So I think, I'm still not sure I get anything directional.
Right.
It's just
wouldn't it just be simpler for those two to get together and just do one thing?
Well, yeah, it would have been, and that when that should have happened was when they were both kind of at peril.
Right.
but I
Yeah.
think that ship sailed. Now, you've got the lawsuits, the Pac-12 suing the Mountain West and saying
Right.
that, the ransom you're trying to get is illegal, and we only signed it under duress. And then the schools that are leaving are suing the Mountain West over the
Right.
exit fees. And so all that's going to get resolved.
Okay.
They usually do, and it'll all get bundled up and resolved somehow, and they'll all move on their merry way. The only other thing that's floating around out there TV wise is you think you've got everybody's waiting to see what ESPN does with the ACC.
So yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah.
I know you can't answer a lot in that
Yeah,
area, so I wasn't going to probe very much, but that date is coming, isn't it? We're now less than a week away, or very close to less than a week away for that.
right.
And it regardless of the details, because I don't want to compromise you here. That time by itself, it's remarkable we've gotten here, isn't it? Don't you think this would have been better solved last fall?
Well, sure, but I
Yeah.
don't think that anybody was really at a mindset to resolve it last fall. I think.
So they're waiting for the last minute, just under the gun. They're going to come up. Don't you think it'll just be extended? The time will just be pushed
Well,
down the
I
line?
can't really go down that route.
Okay, dang it! I wasn't trying to probe. I swear.
Look, I think there's some things that that, and this is where we can kind of segue into reasons why they might want to continue it. Now, I don't know what they're going to do.
No, I know you don't. I know.
And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
I know.
So, I mean, if you look at, and this is a good segue kind of into the streaming world and what's going on there, because
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I think, ESPN is coming out with the flagship, whatever I don't know what they're going to call it. I hope they don't call it flagship, but
So
that's what
Venue's dead, right?
Venue is dead, and Venue's dead for a variety of reasons, which we don't really need to go into. But
No,
basically, Disney decided it was easier to buy Fubo than fight Fubo, and so
Okay.
they're going to take Fubo and they're going to combine it with Hulu Plus Live TV.
Okay.
They're going to do skinny bundles, and it'll probably be not unlike what DirecTV recently announced, which I think they call My Sports or something like that. It's a bunch of channels. It's like $80 a month, $70, $80 a month.
Wow. Okay.
And it has everything but CBS right now, right?
Okay. All right.
And this isn't in the whole country. It's in the place wherever Fox and ABC have owned and operated networks.
Okay.
I think that NBC might be part of it as well, but they have the right to do these skinny bundles and get rid of all the stuff that big sports fans don't really want, and it's a much smaller package and sports people in mind. But if they can work out a deal with TNT on the Fubo side and TBS, they get all the TBS sports, and DirecTV already has that, and so they're gonna start with, they already haven't started. They're going to come out with that, and I think so. You can see that what was Fubo can be, or a Venue is now going to be replicated on existing carriers. And my guess is that if DirecTV has it and Fubo has it, every other distributor is going to have that ability as well to distribute these skinnier bundles.
That includes Warner Brothers, TNT?
Yeah, they're going to have a Warner Brothers deal, but
Okay.
right now DirecTV already has a Warner Brothers deal, so they've
Okay.
got the TNT channels.
Okay.
The only thing they're working on, in my understanding, is the CBS deal, and I think they'll probably get one there as well. They'll work out something where DirecTV can carry Paramount or sell Paramount to their Paramount Plus to their subscribers. So there's going to be a lot of mixing and matching, but at the end of the day, these skinny bundles are going to live in existing linear cable, satellite, and virtual MVPD type distribution packages. The Comcast, the Charters, the Spectrums.
So you're not going to be able to buy the ESPN on demand anymore. That's going away.
I think ESPN Plus will still be out there. It may also be available via DirecTV and Comcast and all the distributors. I think they are still going to go forward with ESPN, the mothership, the main flagship,
the DTC,
as a DTC product, It will also probably include ESPN Plus and some other stuff. There'd be a Disney Plus add-on piece. There'd be lots of different ways to do it. I think somebody is going to buy the Fox content because Fox is really the only. I mean, if you look at NBC with Peacock, CBS with Paramount Plus, Disney with going to have ESPN,
Right.
flagship, and Warner Brothers Discovery with Max. Those are the main sports holders other than Fox. Fox doesn't really have any type of a direct to consumer offering at all. I mean, the Big Ten Network has a piece, but I think Fox will probably bundle up their sports rights and they'll sublicense them to somebody.
Okay.
I don't know. It could be, any of those four: WBD, Max, Peacock, Paramount Plus, or ESPN flagship, and just do it that way. Just sell to the highest bidder and not have to even really get into business. So, I think that you're getting to the point now where the streamers, especially the ones related to broadcast networks, are trying to figure their spot because they're all looking over their shoulder at Netflix. And
that was incredible, wasn't it? That Christmas Day double was absolutely insane.
They had a very interesting quarter. They started with the Tyson Paul debacle, which was, from a technical and a production standpoint, was it was probably a real awakening for Netflix. And that is that, live sports is different. And if you're going to have something streamed, you damn well better be able to handle the capacity, because the only thing that pisses people off more than turning their TV on and not seeing the event is turning your TV on, seeing it for a little while, and then it going away.
Right.
That's not good. And so I think that the fact that what they did on Christmas Day came off so good was bodes very well for sports on Netflix. The games, they look good. I mean, the booths were kind of a mishmash of people, and the pregame and halftime were kind of a mishmash of people. But I thought they did all right. It helped that they had some decent games. They were the only football games on that day. I mean, here we go. The NFL once again stomps on the NBA.
Yeah, that was interesting. LeBron out there complaining.
Yeah,
we own Christmas, and you're like, what are you even?
You do until the NFL decides they want to own Christmas.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And the thing with Netflix that is interesting is, they keep saying, oh, we don't want a season. We don't want a full league. We don't want a package. We want one-off special events.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of stuff was, but you just bought a whole season of the WWE for, a few $1 billion for the next several years.
Right.
So you kind of can't believe everything Netflix said. I mean, for years, Netflix said, first of all, we're just going to rent movies, right? We're going to that's all they did. Remember, they used to send you a DVD, and then they started streaming it. We're not going to get into original programming. Boom. They're like almost overnight, they became the biggest original programmer of anyone out there.
Yes.
You could walk into Netflix office and there'd be 20 people sitting there getting ready to pitch a deal, and half of them would get a check and a green light on their way out. Then they said, we're not going to do sports. Then, they start waving into the world of sports. And the thing about sports for them, and sports has always brought viewers to a platform. They brought viewers to over-the-air television when it first started in the 40s. They brought, even before that, the sports brought listeners to radio. Cable never really took off until it started getting NFL games. And it's the same way for streamers. I mean, you see what Amazon Prime is doing with Thursday nights. You see what, some of the others who've dipped their toe in with some specialized stuff, be it soccer or, an occasional NFL game on Peacock, or the NFL games on Paramount Plus, all those type of things.
Right.
Sports constantly brings viewers, but in order to keep those viewers and not have them just churn out and drop the service, you have to continually offer them more sports. And so it seems to me that even though Netflix might be saying, we're not going to get into this, I think in the back of their minds, they today they announced, or yesterday they announced they're raising their rates again. And
Yes.
sooner or later, what that's going to do is, the premium package is up to like $25. The next lower level, I think my level is like 16 or going to $17. But now there's this ad streaming level. And if people decide they want to, save some money, shave some dollars, they drop down to the ad supported level, deal with the ads. But in order to make your ads valuable, you have to have product and content that's going to bring 25 million viewers or whatever they got on that Christmas day. In order to do that, you need to have an NFL package. And, the NFL is probably going to add a game. And, maybe there's a way for Netflix to shoehorn their way in there. Maybe there's a way for, the next round of collegiate deals for them to figure out a way to do something with Netflix. I don't believe that the Pac-12 or the Mountain West Conference are those conferences who
they're not going to qualify
we're
for
going
a
to
Netflix
get the Netflix to write them a big check.
No.
But that's just something to watch going forward. I think if you see how Netflix is evolving from strictly a rental place to then some original programming and now some sports, the next thing I would watch, if they get the UFC, if they get a big chunk of the UFC, which is out and being bid out right now, and maybe they share the pay-per-view rights and the pre-pay-per-view card rights with ESPN. I think that's just another indication to me that Netflix is going to get in sports in a heavy way sooner rather than later.
I got a question here. I'm only doing super chats, everybody. So if you're watching right now, the only questions I'm going to read are super chats because I got enough of my own. Trent Brown, my brother's namesake, $5 super chat says, could the Big 12 get out of part of their contract with ESPN to expand third tier rights to TNT Warner? ESPN Plus is bad. BYU production is way better. Well, BYU's production is tip of the top. If everybody could do what they do, it would be a lot. They're unique though.
I thought I read somewhere that some of those ESPN Plus, which are the third tier games, have been sold off to TNT.
Yeah, that's true. They sold some of the football
right
as well. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so that is happening, and I think for TNT, I don't know so much they got a billion something dollars burning a hole in their pocket because they didn't get the NBA. But they need to continue to have some sports element for all the reasons Netflix needs to have sports. They want to put it on Max, and they got to have it on TNT in order to justify the rate that they're getting for TNT and not take a haircut over losing the NBA. So
right.
I think that TNT still has an appetite. I don't know. What happens to ESPN Plus is going to be interesting once ESPN, the mothership, goes to direct to consumer. It almost becomes like an ESPN light. I think it's probably, if it can keep the UFC, it stays heavy in the pay-per-view world. I think it might get a little more niche. I think that the need, if you just package it with ESPN, the flagship, it's just another set of tiles on the screen. When you go to the guide.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't just put them all together. Why call it Plus?
I think the lines blur a whole lot.
Yeah.
Between ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ACC Network, SEC Network, all the stuff.
Right.
Once they go that way, and I think you'll see that'll kind of float over. I think to the even the linear distributors will be able to offer a similar, more of a Prime Video or that type of Paramount Plus, whatever viewership experience, as opposed to just a typical digital guide. It'll be more of the tiles, like kind of how it is now, and they'll be all mishmashed around, and you're watching shows more than you're watching networks.
I think right now the Big 12, especially because it's got this quality, it doesn't have its own network deal, and it's got both Fox and ESPN content. It's kind of bipolar being in the Big 12 as a fan, because one, you're never sure what broadcast partner you're going to be on. And two, you're not sure what kind of level of support you're going to get from that broadcaster. In very few circumstances each week, you're not even sure what the quality level of the broadcast is going to
Right.
be. So everybody's looking forward to the next contract, right?
Yeah,
So the next
it
six
is a
years, it's anxious.
it is a mishmash, and you can thank the Longhorn Network for that.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes.
Long story.
Anyway, all right, I have two more questions, then I'll let you go. By the way, thank you so much for being here. It's almost an hour, and you've done the majority of the talking, which nobody wants to hear me talk anyway. But you given your time, everything you've gone into tonight answers thousands of questions people have been asking and will continue to ask. So I appreciate you doing this, and we'll get you again in a month or two. But two other questions. One of them is Apple TV is the one that actually got into sports first, ahead of Netflix with the MLS. It was an aborted start, not a lot of viewers. I'm not sure where it is now, 2.5 years later or whatever it is. Is there any chance that they take another bite at the apple and make a run at another college football conference or set of conferences?
I don't know.
That's the one that you didn't mention once.
No, because they're just not a. If they really wanted the Pac-12, they would have just stepped up and paid a bit more and got their seat at the table. They didn't do that, and the MLS deal has been such that the numbers, I assume, are just not that good. Otherwise, they might actually tell people what the numbers are, and they have.
Well, I would say the MLS isn't a great product anyway.
Yeah,
I think it's what they're broadcasting myself.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, and they gave it to all the season ticket holders, so the numbers are kind of fudged around. Even if they did report them, I don't know how much I trust them. But
right,
I think Apple really has to decide what Apple TV Plus is going to be. I mean, it's sitting down there with 20 million subs, and you look at some of these behemoths with 300 million at Netflix and 200 million at Amazon Prime, and Disney's over 150 million or something like that. They've got to kind of decide what they want to be. They really haven't been a software company. They've been a hardware company and a services company.
That's right, services. Yep.
Yeah, and the amount of money they make on like music and apps and all that stuff is just astounding. But they haven't. I don't think they've cracked the TV code, and they definitely haven't cracked the sports code.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to be an ongoing discussion as we cover the Pac-12 negotiation. They need to pick up another school, and then they have to finish a deal. But those questions are going to be ongoing. And so I wanted to ask that before you got out of here, because I know there's a lot of people that watch my show and other shows that are concerned and kind of hope that they're gonna halo in, they're gonna drop on them really low, sudden, and come with this giant bid and package and give them some crazy number. I don't. Can you imagine them getting more than $10 million?
No.
Okay, I can't either. All right.
Who's that?
So we're on the same page.
Pac-12?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. I mean,
that's tough, right?
I'd be interested to see how if they do, I'm going to be real interested to see how they got there. I mean, look, I hope they do. I hope those schools do well, and they don't have to just live off. They don't have to live off, money they win in lawsuits.
I totally agree with you. I want them to be good.
Departing schools or payoffs from the Rose Bowl, because that's all going to end at some point. And
I don't know. Everybody saw that $100 million check that went to two schools, and they're like, "Wow, I want to do that."
Yeah, well, when your TV deal went from 25 or 28 million down to 3,
right?
That money doesn't last long. So, I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see, A, who the carriers are, and B, how they slice it and dice it between, if they get a streaming element, or if it's just going to be kind of similar to what Mountain West Conference and the Pac-12 had this year, a mishmash of some games on Fox, some games on CW, some games on, CBS Sports Network. Right. And that might be the best place for them.
Look, it's all money game. It's survival, really. I mean, I don't need to bring that list up again. I count 12 issues, and there's probably 20 more I didn't even delineate that have problems with college sports right now, but they all have one root, and that's money.
And when money gets tight, what happens is it tends to go to in the rights world, the top brands and properties continue to get paid well.
Okay.
Below that, it becomes a scramble
Okay.
in order to generate revenues from a rights fee standpoint. And so the food chain just kind of continues to, it flows downhill. And the further down you are, the bigger you get hit. And so a lot of the properties that aren't the top properties are just trying to stay where they're at. And
I think that's fair.
that's a difficult position right now because money's tight. I mean, you look at the linear TV business and it's, they're still having problems. There's going to be a whole lot of people laid off tomorrow. You just watch at CNN, at NBC, because the election's over and all these places gear up for those, over the course of a period of time, they gear up for the elections. And tomorrow is going to be like, Black Monday in the NFL around a lot of TV news organization. And that'll give you an idea of how difficult the headwinds are in that business right now, the traditional linear network television business.
And I'm going to drop this on you because it wasn't on my list and it's the last question I have. And it might not be answerable, but I think it's the one that people are most intrigued with. And that is private equity, right? You had this report, U.S. News and World Report, or whoever put out the report of valuations for all the universities, at least the top 75, I think. And there were some estimations. I know BYU's numbers were skewed because not all the data is available for what their worth is. And that, I'm sure that goes with most of the private schools. But private equity as an entity, do you see it having a place in sports, or sorry, in universities outside of the investment part, which would be, and let me define what that means, private equity company coming in, and once the ESPN contract comes out or is done, they come in and try to buy all of the college football playoff and use it as an investment property and sub-license everything. Do you see an Ohio State tomorrow going out because it just needs the money to a private equity?
Private equity has a place in a lot of businesses. I'm not sure that in the collegiate sports world at this point it does. Okay. I mean, I've read and seen pretty much all the deals floating around. Some are more interesting than others. Like if I'm a school, like, I don't know, pick Arizona State. If I need money, I'll just float some bonds.
Yeah, that's what I've always wondered why they don't
do that all the time, and they're tax free and they have some benefits. And now the thing with private equity is that they do come in with a different set of eyes, and because of their involvement, they make you take a really hard look at your business and aren't afraid to say, well, we're going to give you all this money. We think there's a better way, and so you're going to do it this way. Mm-hmm. And that's where private equity would be a really rude awakening for the collegiate world, because they're kind of used to doing their own thing. I mean, some of these guys can't even play together in a conference. How are they going to play together when all of a sudden they have a new set of bosses, and these guys are expecting, 2% and 20% on their money within a period of time, because that's what their investors are expecting to get paid back. It's a whole different ballgame. And, the other thing that I always say about private equity, I've dealt with them over the years on a variety of businesses. And the first thing they ask before they get before they start negotiating is, how do we get out of this? What's our exit strategy?
Really?
And so, because these are it's frequently bought through a fund. So either that fund has to be rolled over, or they have to start a new fund that continues to invest in the same thing. But at some point, private equity exits. And then what do you do? Yeah. That's always the question. I mean, can you continue to sustain what private equity did with your own money? And so I just think it has a place in a lot of businesses, and private equity does a lot to help the business world. I just don't know that it's quite ready to cross that business to the quasi business slash public world of state-owned universities. It'd probably be a whole lot easier to do it with private universities than state universities, but that's a whole different situation.
It'll be interesting. That's Brett Yormark's vision board.
Look,
He's
Brett,
got this idea of,
yeah, Brett's a smart guy, and
yeah,
he's spent a lot of time in and around New York and knows how that world works. I just have a hard time kind of crossing that bridge from how I know that public institutions operate and how I know that private equity operates. And it's a little bit of a oil and water type mix. Right. I'm just not sure it's necessarily destined to happen. And even if it does happen, if it be the way to go, but there's a possibility. I mean, when you start talking about somebody wants to create the super league, that, that's probably something that private equity makes sense for. But just to invest in conferences, other than maybe buying some marketing rights and things like that, I don't really get it.
Well, it is ambiguous. There's nothing to get necessarily, but
right.
As this goes on, it's a tale that everybody likes to follow. And I really appreciate you coming on and explaining all this to us, all these questions, everything you gave Bob an hour, and you're not feeling well. Thank you so much tonight for your time.
I'll be all right. Look, I played golf today, but
okay, all right. Well,
it's just a little cold down here. It's like 60.
Yeah, did you see what it's in New Orleans? There's 10 inches of snow. So
yeah, could you imagine if that CFP game had been in New Orleans on Monday night?
I know.
Those people trying to get out of that airport, which I'm sure they have just an army.
It's better here in Utah. I don't have any snow. I need snow. It's the way it goes, I guess. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much, Bob Thompson, retired president of Fox Sports and creator of the Big Ten Network. We will catch you. Hey, how about we put on a board, maybe just as a target, sometime after that February 19th meeting between the SEC and the Big Ten?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, that's about a month away.
Yeah, that might be some stuff worth talking about.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. You stay out of trouble, okay, and get better.
All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and your family. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bob Thompson in the house. I'm going to clap him out. That was, man, I'm getting good at this. I'm going to pat myself on my back. I know my team likes to tease me about my interviews and style and everything else, but I tell you what, there were some quotes in there that I've never heard anybody else talk about, let alone share some of the data and information that Bob went through tonight. So I really, really want to thank him for everything he did by coming on this evening. And yeah, we'll catch him in about a month as we look forward to what is going to be an amazing off season. And if you're watching on X right now on Twitter, jump over to my YouTube page and subscribe, please. I didn't get into the business at the beginning because Bob was with me right away. But do me a favor and jump over and subscribe to my channel. We have a whole bunch of shows, a whole host of contributors. I have a whole team that I work with. We have 10-minute videos. We have membership videos that are the bomb, best in the business. And yeah, I want to make sure that we share that out so that everybody knows where to find us. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. Turn on your notifications on Twitter and on YouTube so you know when our shows are on. And look, this is our growing season. We don't do so much during the season. We just sort of hold serve as it goes. But during the off season, that's where we make hay. We break news. We cover everything so you don't have to on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, we follow all the news and distill it and try to get it out to you with as little opinion and as much information as possible. I'm not sure you get that from a lot of other sources. Really quick, let me show you what our webpage looks like on YouTube, just so everybody can see it. Sorry, I went to hit the wrong button. It's College Football Mafia. Just look us up there. And we have a bunch of membership videos that we have. So if you're a member, our memberships don't cost a ton of money. You just hit that $sign next to the comment section, and you can become a new member. Or, of course, we always take donations and super chats. But these are membership videos. Some of the latest ones that have come out Wild Ute did one. Pac-12 expansion. Pac-12 expansion targets. Data reveals best fits. Wild Ute University. Nobody does it better in the business. I promise you that. If you find somebody that does it better, please let me know and I'll recruit them, but I don't think they exist. Moen Rants, Notre Dame, aka Shamrock Snowflake strike again. That's Moen ranting after Ohio State wins the national championship. And then Wild Ute and the great Gygax, Gary Gygax, sorry, not Gary Gygax, he invented Dungeons and Dragons. Daniel Gygax does the G6 viewership, truth in the numbers. It just goes from there. We cover every conference. We cover all news that there is to cover. And yeah, that's what we do here on the College Football Mafia Network. Right now, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do hellos and I'm going to cover as many comments as I can this evening. If you want your comment to be read at this point, there's what, 400 comments, 300 comments. I cannot get to all of them. I'll get to as many as I can. But you can make it a super chat and I get all those and I will cover all those as they come up. In fact, let me get one from Illini Ted right now. 10-month member, Illini Ted. Thank you so much, Ted, for your loyalty. And, you know, we love having you around here. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Bob makes us all smarter. That is fact. And if you didn't know, I have personally, our network has the best fans in the business, the smartest guys, and the guys that lead the conversation at the water cooler on a daily. So, all right, let's jump into these hellos. Timothy Green at the beginning, always the guy in the house first. Let's get ready for another great show. Y'all can't wait till next year, but until then, we have a lot to talk about. Thank you so much, Timothy, for being here, and thanks for being the soldier out there protecting us in the West Virginia universe. Glenn Hanna, Oregon Duck in the house. Let's do this again. I love it. Good to see you, Glenn. Thanks for being here tonight. Nathan Campbell says, hi, guys. Thank you so much, Nathan. Big Lubbock was fourth in the house, saying he's fourth. Good to see you. Daniel Gygax, contributor extraordinaire. Hi, everyone. Another West Virginia Mountaineer in the house. Joe Z saying, Mafia Georgia Tech drink. Mafia drink. I appreciate it. Good to see you, Joe. Another, by the way, Joe is a member in standing. We appreciate you being a paid member. Those paid memberships carry a lot of special shows and content. We encourage everybody to sign up, become a member. You do that on the YouTube page. Antoine Coates, another member. Good to see you. Hey, y'all. Caleb Ramirez checking in. Ohio State, congratulations to you, Caleb. Ohio State won the national championship. That's great. Illini Ted again saying good evening, all. Let's see here. There are so many I've got to get out. Don in Kansas saying hello, everyone. Good to see you, Don. I hope you're having a great week. Bob is always a wealth of knowledge. Bob is the best in the business. Been doing it the longest in the business. There's nobody better. And the fact that he's a friend of the show and a friend of mine, personally, I cannot tell everybody how honored I am to have him here. Clint Moses, I'm not sure what you took from what Bob said tonight, Clint. I hope you listened all show and got to the end there. That was interesting what he had to say about the Pac-12 and their media and where they're going to go. Obviously, I want the Pac-12 to get the best money possible. The fact that maybe Apple isn't the player we all hope and pray, that would be interesting. Nathan Campbell says, what about Liv? What Liv will do? Well, he just said he thinks Liv's going to Fox, which that was information I didn't know. Liv going to Fox, that's crazy. Immaculate. Bob, I have a question. What are you doing at home and not at Westworld? I'm not sure where that was going. I know that he's also in the same area. Immaculate lives in the same area that Bob does. So maybe that's an inside joke. I wonder Bob's thoughts on the CFP negotiating solely with ESPN instead of opening the playoffs to multiple networks. The answer to that, Ted, is ESPN had the right of first refusal on the contract because they already had it. I don't know if that extends to 30-31. That's something we'll have to ask in the future, but I know that was part of it, is they were the first ones there, and honestly, it looked to me like, I don't know, there's inside trading there. I don't quite understand where all that comes from. But anyway, Joe Z, the game not being on ABC hurt the ratings. I completely agree with you, Joe. And Bob said that as much. Josie, another member in the house. Daniel Gorby, another member in standing. Good to see you, Daniel. I think the MLK holiday, another thing I didn't mention, I wasn't dissing at Martin Luther King. I just didn't think of it. Martin Luther King holiday on Monday, that definitely hurt it. I agree. And the inauguration Monday affected viewership. I don't know what they were thinking. I think even Tuesday would have been better than doing it on that Monday. It just seems crazy to me. Immaculate says, here's the thing. Yes, it's a decline, but they went from 3 games to 11 games. That is a massive increase in supply, yet their viewership per game went down very little in comparison. And I would add, I think Bob said 12%. It was nice to hear that number. 12% slide. I would say the increased viewership because the expanded playoffs in the overall was a better trade. But definitely looks as a headline, it looks better if that number would have been closer to what I thought it was going to be, about 30 million. Skaven, yes, checking in. Good to see you, Skaven. Evening, gentlemen. It's good to see you. Thanks for checking in here. Shonsky, another BYU fan of mine, following me up here and covering BYU. Hi, everyone. Good to see you, Shonsky. Thanks for your loyalty and a long-standing member at this point. We appreciate it. He asked, Bob, if you're watching YouTube TV, Fubo TV, etc., and multiple view, are all 4 games getting viewership numbers? I'm sorry, Shonsky, I didn't get to that question. That would have been a good one. That was one of the few I think he didn't answer. Maybe pose that to him on Twitter, Shonsky. I can't remember if you have Twitter, but Bob does answer questions on Twitter. Just look up Bob Thompson. It's RLT Sports, I think. That's his consultantship company. And just send him a message on Twitter and ask him. I think it's a great question to ask him. Stormy Cyclone. I'm not worried about NFL. I'm worried about Big 12 getting squeezed by the Big 10 and SEC. I tried to address that, Stormy. I hope you think I covered that. We have to have a minimum of 2 bids to compete against 8 from them other those 2 conferences. I hope we go to 14 games and a 4-4-2-2-1. That's where I hope we go. I want to end up at a 4. It would be great if it was 3-3-2-2-1-4 or whatever that number would be to get, or 5 or 6 to get to 16. That's what I want, is 16. But 4-4-2-2, I think, is probably where we're going to end up in 2 years, or I guess next year is the next window. And there's nothing to say they don't negotiate that this year, actually, to be honest. Stormy, it's good to see you, though. Thank you for being here. Infamous front runner. So Bama shouldn't play Mercer anymore. Well, SEC doesn't have the same problem the Big 12 and the ACC does. They need to, and the G6 for that matter, schedule up as much as you can. I don't think that's always been the case, though. It's funny that became a storyline in this last season. It's always been a storyline. Strength of schedule's always been a storyline. It wasn't just invented last October, November when we started seeing, the first playoff rankings come out. It's ridiculous to have that storyline be something like we just found out about. Strength of schedule's always been a problem. Always. BYU, I know that. I speak that from my own experience. You have to have strength of schedule. Let's see here. Two Masta has been forever since I've seen you. Where have you been? UTEP to the Mountain West Conference 2026. So that's what he was talking about, Mountain West Conference, UTEP. I hadn't heard that. Thank you, Two Master. It's good to see you. Hopefully you'll come back around. It's been a minute since we've seen you, but certainly in the off seasons where we made hay last year, so it'll be good to have you back. It's great to see you. I'm just marking more of these comments. Let's see here. Hummus Hero. Again, congratulations, Ohio State. Hummus Hero. Hey, Bomber and College Football Mafia gang. Good to see you, Hummus Hero. Thanks for showing up. And again, congratulations to you. FF18 Buffs. That would be Fergie. Good to see you, Fergie. We need to do another show with you, brother. I think we're on to the next season. And it looks to me like you're going to keep your coach, which is great for the Big 12. And obviously Colorado. Great show, Bombers. Go Buffs. Rip Coach Mac. Yeah, that was sad. Coach Mac was a great coach. Great leader of men at Colorado. Great celebration of life today. If that happened today, that's great. That's really cool. Fergie, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being a member. I really, really appreciate it. Moen is checking in. What are you doing? How you doing, brother? Can you hear
Hey,
me?
I'm doing all right, man. I just wanted to. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can now. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm on the road, so I just wanted to check in. How'd that Bob? I heard that Bob Thompson interview. Great interview, man.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying out for ESPN.
Well, aren't we all? So am
Yeah,
I.
no, I'm
So am
not. I
I.
don't want to work for. I don't want to work for anybody. I already have a hard enough time with my regular job. So, thank you very much. Yeah, Bob was boy. He was in rare form tonight.
Yeah, lots of great questions. I mean, that guy knows so much about so much. It astounds me. If someday we could get him with some truth serum, though, and get everything out of him,
He
that
knows
that
more
would
than
be
he's
the
sharing.
show.
Yes.
That would be the show of shows.
You know,
But
and we've talked about that offline. You know that. I know there's things that we can't talk about, and I didn't want to press him on anything. He brought up the ACC contract. I didn't even ask him. So,
yeah. But I mean, it's I just wanted to thank everybody for all the well wishes and congratulations on number 9 for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
yes, sir.
Uh, thank you guys so much. Um, I also want to thank people who checked out the Moen rants. You were mentioning the members videos. I just wanted to jump in there and plug them again. If you have not seen Wild Utes members only video on the Pac 12 expansion candidates, you find me a better video. If you're a Pac 12 fan, it's must watch. The model, the data, the analytics, that man broke it all down into a 20-minute bite sized snack for everybody. So definitely something people should check out. Um, but other than that, I just wanted to say go Buckeyes. I will see you
Good.
guys on Friday.
Okay.
I picked up my national championship gear. I
Good.
got some of the confetti from the field.
Okay.
So everybody at everybody down at Ohio State is very happy, and everybody at Notre Dame is very sad. So I mean, what more can you really want out of life?
Well, on Friday we'll give you a whole 15 minutes, and you can just go off and do whatever you want to do. I want you to take your bow and get your 15 minutes because it's a big deal. Winning a national championship, and you and I are old enough to remember these in the 80s and 90s. Um, to get to that point was almost impossible. You had to fight the polls, you had to fight the regional bias, the schedules were all mixed up back then, and you never knew who was going to make it into that final number one ranking every year. It was really crazy. Now it's like it's so formal that now everybody's fighting for those individual spots, and it's a lot more grounded, which makes it a lot more intense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to well, you know what? We'll talk about it on Friday, but I got some intel on Notre Dame, the ACC. I think everybody's going to find it interesting, so I will
Okay.
just tickle their ass with a feather. Tune in on Friday for the Big Freaking Friday show.
All right. Go get some rest. Okay.
I will promise. I
Okay.
got to get a shot in the back tomorrow, so I'm heading to the bed. So,
All right. Yes. Please do that. Yep. And we'll see you on Friday night. See you, Moen.
all right, Ken. See ya.
Okay. Bye bye. Again, I'm going to give him a clap.